You know, some stories are all about incredible heroism, and others are about a deep, profound mystery. Well, today's story is tragically and fascinatingly both. It's about a man who saved tens of thousands of people from the Holocaust, only to vanish into thin air. So, this is Raoul Wallenberg. In July of 1944, this Swedish architect and businessman shows up in Budapest, Hungary. He's on a mission, backed by the U.S. War Refugee Board. And his task? Well, it sounds impossible. Save as many of Hungary's remaining Jews from the Nazis as he can. And he succeeded, beyond anyone's wildest dreams. But just 6 months later, as the Soviet Red Army is liberating the city, Wallenberg is taken into custody, and his story just goes dark. And these were his last recorded words. He spoke them on January 17, 1945, right as he was heading off to meet a Soviet marshal. Whether as a guest or prisoner, I do not know yet. He was never seen as a free man again. And that single question, guest or prisoner, it would echo for decades, becoming one of the Cold War's most haunting mysteries. So it's a fair question, right? Who was this guy? How did a businessman from neutral Sweden end up in the absolute heart of Nazi-occupied Hungary on a life-or-death mission? To get that, we need to go back a little bit. Okay, so Wallenberg comes from this really powerful, well-known family in Sweden, but he kind of charts his own course. He studies in the US, which gives him a different perspective on the world, and then, crucially, in 1936, he's working in Haifa, and he meets Jewish refugees who are fleeing Nazi Germany. That experience, it really stuck with him. His business travels later on took him to Budapest all the time, so he knew the city inside and out. All these different threads of his life just came together perfectly in 1944. When he got the call for this mission. This quote, something he said way back in the 1930s, tells you everything about his mindset. He was proud of his distant Jewish ancestry, and he truly believed that his unique position, as a member of this powerful family, but also as someone with Jewish roots, gave him a kind of special strength. It was this sense of destiny that I think really fueled his incredible courage. And believe me, that courage was about to be tested in ways you can't even imagine. By the time Wallenberg got to Budapest, more than 400,000 Hungarian Jews had already been shipped off to Auschwitz. He had to hit the ground running, and he did it with this amazing mix of cleverness, pure guts, and total nerve. His main weapon? It was paper. He designed and started issuing thousands of these things called Schutz-Passes, basically protective passports. Now, they weren't exactly legal, but they looked official enough, with the right stamps and signatures to fool German and Hungarian authorities into leaving the bearers alone. These pieces of paper were quite literally lifelines. But he didn't just stop with paper. Oh no. He took the money from the War Refugee Board and rented 32 buildings all around Budapest. And then, in this incredibly audacious move, he just declared them Swedish territory, protected by diplomatic immunity. He'd hang these huge Swedish flags on them, put up signs like the Swedish Library, whatever it took to turn them into safe havens. These Swedish houses, as people called them, ended up sheltering almost 10,000 people from the fascist death squads that were roaming the city streets. But if you really want to know what courage looks like, listen to this. This is an account from his driver. Wallenberg finds out about a train packed with people headed for Auschwitz. He rushes to the station, climbs right up on the roof of the train car, with soldiers yelling and shooting at him, and starts handing passes down to the desperate hands reaching up. He literally pulled dozens of people off a train bound for the gas chambers. It's just unbelievable. And then, just 2 days before the Soviets captured the city, he pulled off his single greatest rescue. He got word to the German commander who was planning to liquidate the entire main ghetto, and he basically threatened him, saying, "If you do this, I'll make sure you're tried and hanged as a war criminal." It was a total bluff, but it worked. The plan was scrapped, and 70,000 people were saved. Then, liberation came. The city was free. But for Raoul Wallenberg, it wasn't freedom. It was the beginning of a brand new, much darker story. A mystery that would disappear behind the Iron Curtain. Okay, so here's where the official story just falls apart. For years, the Soviets said they had no idea where he was. Then, suddenly, in 1957, they produced this report saying he died of a heart attack a whole decade earlier. But that story, it never really added up, because over the years, dozens of former prisoners from the Gulag came forward, all with stories of seeing a Swedish diplomat who looked just like Wallenberg, long after he was supposed to be dead. This plaque in Budapest, it marks the exact spot where his journey into the shadows began. It's such a quiet, simple reminder of that moment. A hero was just taken. As the inscription says, he was abducted to the Soviet Union, becoming just another victim of Stalinist terror. So why? Why did they take him? Well, theories have been flying around for decades. We know from declassified files that he was working with the OSS, which was basically the old-school CIA, so the Soviets might have seen him as a spy. But today, the most credible evidence, including the diary of a former KGB boss that turned up in 2016, points to him being executed in Moscow's infamous Lubyanka prison in 1947. But without a body, without an official confession, the real motive? It's still just speculation. You see, Wallenberg's disappearance wasn't just some abstract historical mystery. It left this terrible wound, a wound that's never really healed, for his family or for the thousands of people he saved and their descendants. I mean, the personal toll on his family, it's just devastating. His mother and stepfather never ever gave up hope. They both died by suicide in 1979, just overwhelmed by decades of grief and uncertainty. His half-brother, Guy von Dartel, a brilliant physicist, spent the rest of his life on a relentless quest for the truth, even compiling a 50,000-page archive on the case. And while his family was searching for answers, the rest of the world was working to make sure he was never forgotten. He's been made an honorary citizen of the United States, Canada, Australia, you name it. Monuments like these here in Tel Aviv and London stand in cities all across the globe. It's like the world was saying, we will not let you be erased. And then, finally, in 2016, the Swedish government gave the story a legal ending, even if it wasn't a factual one. After 71 years with no new evidence, Raoul Wallenberg was officially declared dead. His date of death was formally listed as July 31st, 1952, a standard date used for missing persons, 5 years after he was last thought to be alive. And that's where we're left. His life was this incredible testament to what one person can do, even in the face of absolute evil. His death remains this black hole of unanswered questions. And it makes you wonder, right? What does it mean for a hero's legacy when we may never actually know his final chapter? What does it mean when a story of such immense courage has no real end?